Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for my rational perspective on Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1 in the FA Cup final. Where do you start with that game? I mean, the tougher question to ask is what went right for Chelsea today? Because what went wrong for Chelsea was basically everything. I mean, a complete and utter horror show today for Chelsea in all aspects. Underperformed, bad officiating, bad luck with injuries, just everything that could have gone wrong today for Chelsea did go wrong. And unfortunately, that's why we're the runners-up in the final. Again, to Arsenal, they just seem to have it over us in the FA Cup final. It's really horrible to take. It's gutting whenever you lose a final, especially, after the high of last week against Wolves. I think when tomorrow I wake up and, you think about the season, and we'll think about the season a lot in the coming weeks, and I'll do on this channel, it's still a positive one. Winning the FA Cup, I think, for me, would have still been a bonus. Of course, it isn't nice currently, and it's not much of a consolation, but I think for me, getting Champions League football was always the main priority of this season. It's just unfortunate, when you do have an FA Cup final, you want to go out there and win it, but unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be today, and that was for a variety of factors. I think, it started so amazingly well. I mean, that opening 10 minutes really just, the game that then played out after that for the remaining, 80 minutes or even longer than that, because of course added time, was staggering considering how much it changed. That was down to Arsenal being very good, pressing well, getting back into the game, exploiting space as they did time and again to get back into the game in that first half, especially down our right between Reece James and Azpilicueta. And it was an area they exploited a lot. And in the second half, the class of Aubameyang, some really poor defending by Chelsea, as we've seen all season. Rear its head again, and then injuries. It's been a really poor day, really. It has. And that's the most devastating thing. And unfortunately, there were other factors in the game that just did not go in our favour. Things out of our control, like the referee performance. I want to get this out of the way first because, of course, it always sounds like sour grapes. It always is, sounds like an excuse. So I'll get it out of the way first. Anthony Taylor is a terrible official. There's no two ways about it. And it's not just Chelsea fans who go on Twitter, see their response. Commentary are very critical of Anthony Taylor, and it was just another disaster class by him. I mean, I don't know how he gets to officiate an FA Cup final after the season he's had. Just looking at it from a Chelsea perspective, Gazzaniga on Alonso, he thought that was a foul by Alonso. Luckily, VAR overturned that. Maguire against Batshuayi for the Man United game, I think back in February. Other times as well with Anthony Taylor. I mean, he made some terrible decisions in the FA Cup final. I think it was 2017, wasn't it, where he officiated that. Why he gets to officiate 2 FA Cup finals when I don't think that's been a rule before, but for some reason, because of this circumstance, he gets to do it again. And in this game, just several times making really stupid decisions. I mean, I don't understand why Mason Mount, was it Mason Mount got a yellow card? Kovacic's second yellow was not a second yellow. I mean, it's just a bad decision all round. And I think, unfortunately, where the game was at that point, I think it really just absolutely done us in at that point, because I think Frank was about to make a change to go 4-3-3. Chelsea weren't playing amazingly then, but I think that whenever you lose a player at that stage in a game, we just gone 2-1 behind in a final. It just always felt like we were going to be up against it. And yeah, you have to come to the injuries, don't you? Because it was just series about, I mean, maybe it sums up the season, because injuries have been a big problem for Chelsea all year. And I really hope Chelsea, we talk about recruitment, bringing in new players. I really hope Chelsea's staff, coaching staff, and the setup there, the fitness team, look at this, because we can't have as many injuries again. There clearly is something wrong this season, because the amount of injuries to top players over and over and over again has been a key issue. And for us moving forward, if you have the likes of Werner and Ziyech out for long periods of time, you're always going to struggle. So I really hope that's something Chelsea rectify, because we're going to need it for next season. And you look at the players that went off. Dave, all right, was getting roasted on his side by Aubameyang, especially for the penalty. But at the same time, he still is a leader. You still want him in there. For me, he still is a leading figure in the team. And unfortunately, when you lose your captain as well, that's a big thing. And then Christian Pulisic, I mean, once Pulisic went off, I think for me, just mentally, and the game was 1-1, it was still, very even. But for me, mentally, I thought, this is just not going to be our day. When you see a player like him, and the way he got injured as well, right at the start of the second half, where he drove through, absolutely left Rob Holding for dead. And you felt like this is the guy that can win us this game. They can't handle him. When he gets on the ball, when he drives at that defence, they can't handle him. Pedro did okay. I think he actually did a lot better than I expected him to. Unfortunately, him wrapping up the day with a trio of injuries, getting that shoulder injury right at the end, a horrible way for him to end his Chelsea career. Just a sad way all round, really, right at the end of that game. to go off like that. But I think just structurally for me, Chelsea's team, the performance just deteriorated, unfortunately. We could not keep up the intensity and the fluid attacking of that first 5 minutes. It just seemed to deteriorate. I think for me, a key worrying sign in that game was how many times we gave away possession, unenforced errors basically, whether it was, the likes of Antonio Rudiger, Marcos Alonso, even some of the attacking players when they were coming back. I mean, it just really stopped us getting back into the game, really, and getting a foothold after Arsenal had got the momentum again. We were really hanging on to get into half-time, weren't we? And we needed half-time, but unfortunately, I think the injury to Pulisic right at the start of the second half probably shocked the team again. And, you have to change a little bit with Pedro coming in, the runs Pedro makes compared to Christian Pulisic, what Pulisic gives you at the moment. I really hope for Pulisic it's not a terrible injury, because we need him. We really do. He was, unfortunately for him, that goal was amazing. And you really thought this was going to be another incredible day for the young Christian Pulisic, who's had an incredible end to the season, which, tonight's game doesn't change any of that. He has been astonishing for Chelsea. He really has. He's got a cup final goal. And if Chelsea keep on getting to cup finals, I'm sure he'll have the opportunity to score more in finals as well. But unfortunately, just defensively, once again, I think Rudiger, a rush of blood there, allowing Bellerin to get the ball through his legs, and then we're exposed then. Christensen and Zuma, the ball gets to Aubameyang. He's brilliant in those situations. It was a really good finish, but it was always going to be difficult, and it sums up Antonio Rudiger's season. Unfortunately, he just has not been at the levels he was previously for Chelsea. I think that's another case maybe of injuries, but I think, it's past the point now of excusing him for injuries. I think, defensively, he has not been good enough for Chelsea, and it's why Chelsea will be looking to recruit defensively as well. N'Golo Kante on the bench didn't come on at any point, but I can sort of understand Frank at the point he was making subs, and as well that Kovacic red card as well really halted those subs. I mean, you're attacking, you want to get back into the game. I think if the game was 1-1, maybe Frank would have thought about bringing on Kante, but he's the sort of player, he's not going to get you a goal, is he? He's not an attacking player. He's the sort of player you need to start, and I can only assume maybe it's a mixture of Frank looking at how well it worked against Wolves last week, Jorginho and Kovacic, and a mixture of Kante's fitness. Maybe he wasn't still 100%, so I'd say rest him for the Bayern game as well. For me, that feels a bit like a glorified friendly at this point. I'd rest him, get him really ready for next season, because we're going to need him at full fitness for next season. All round, it was just a terrible day, a perfect mixture of, an underperforming Chelsea side, bad defending, bad officiating, bad luck with injuries. I mean, that basically sums up the whole evening. I hope Chelsea fans, don't overreact too much, in the sense that it is a final. Of course, it's really horrible to lose a final to a rival like that. But at the same time, look at the context of the season, look at the perspective of the season, of where we started, where we ended. Of course, the good thing I think about this is now there's not a massive gap, is there, between the end of this season and the start of next season. So we won't have to sort of think about this result for too long. Of course, we'll focus on Bayern next week, and then I'm sure maybe pre-season friendlies in the coming weeks with signings coming in as well. So Frank luckily has a quick turnaround to get these players back focused again for the start of next season, where we're going to have the likes of Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner, hopefully other players coming in for Chelsea, and hopefully we can go again in the Premier League. That FA Cup, and that silverware, that first trophy for Frank Lampard has to wait. Maybe there is some consolation, or maybe in a few years' time we'll look back at this as fate, that fans weren't in attendance today, and hopefully when we get back to a final with Frank Lampard again, hopefully very soon, we'll be in attendance, and hopefully we'll be able to win that game in the future. Those are my thoughts on the game. A difficult day, I'm sure, for Chelsea fans. Drown your sorrows tonight. As I say, quick turnaround to next season. Chin up. This has been, I think, a pretty good season for Frank Lampard in his first year as Chelsea's head coach. But today, unfortunately, didn't go for us. A horror show for Chelsea Football Club, unfortunately, at Wembley again against Arsenal. But those are my thoughts. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at Son of Chelsea, and I'll see you again.